So if you thought being tricked by illusions was a weakness, then think again. They may seem to be just a bit of fun, but it turns out they may be the key to our success.
So what if I told you they're exactly the same?
Oh my God.
So I do take checks.
You just lost so much.
Many people think that illusions, in fact, demonstrate the fragility of the human senses, which is, in fact, completely rubbish. Okay? Illusions don't tell us that our senses are fragile. If they were, we wouldn't be here. Illusions tell us that actually our brains are incredibly capable of constructing meaning from the meaningless. We're really good at doing that.
If we were to process all of the information that we feel that we are aware of, we would have to grow huge brains and have massive heads that our bodies would just fail to support. Now, rather than using this approach, we've evolved to having a very clever attentional system that only processes the information that is actually needed.
So far from being a disadvantage, illusions are a necessary and powerful shortcut that lie at the heart of our most sophisticated human abilities. And yet the insights we can get from illusions don't end there. Scientists are now realizing that illusions get even more fascinating when the senses start to work together. One of the things most of us can hold on to is that our 5 senses work separately. We see with our eyes, hear with our ears, taste with our tongue, and touch with our skin. But scientists have been studying a group of people for whom this just isn't the case.
So when I hear the sea, the big clunkiness, as it were, of the wave has a kind of dark blue, and the pebbly bit has kind of oranges and yellows and little bits of white. I heard the wind earlier, and it had these kind of long shapes, a bit like, mackerel fillets, those shapes, but a bit, the little thin ones, like that, but blue, light blue, and, quite a lot of them going across. I have synesthesia, which means when I experience taste, smell, sound, I get visual images, shape, colour and texture to accompany the sense.
Synesthesia is a mixing of the senses. A sensory experience in one sense can trigger an entirely different reaction in another. Whenever Philippa hears, smells or tastes something, she also sees colours and shapes.
If I was to have fish and chips, fish, the crispiness, that's angular, and then the actual taste of the fish is kind of speckledy brown. Nice brown, but kind of coffee colour brown.
While this experience isn't always pleasurable, it's helped drive Philippa's artistic creativity.
This is a painting of the taste of English mustard, and it has such a distinctive colour as it is as a product. It's bright yellow, but when you taste it, to me, it has this massive red hit, which then just disappears into something else that ends up, by the time the kind of fumes of it are going up through your nose, it's actually quite pretty. So it starts off as a big, massive red hit of taste, which then disperses into something else.
For years, synesthesia wasn't taken seriously. But now, scientists are realising that people like Philippa provide important clues as to the way all our senses work.
we're going to present you with letters and numbers. They're going to be colored either red or green.
Dr. Noam Sagiv has spent his career studying synesthetes in an attempt to understand how their brains are connected.
So scientists have suspected for a long time that what causes synesthesia is extra connections between different parts of the brain, particularly between the sensory areas that are involved. For example, if someone has auditory visual synesthesia, we expect that their auditory part of the brain and the visual part of the brain would be cross-wired.
And this understanding of how their brains are wired has led to an exciting new idea about the way all our senses develop from birth.
Okay, that's it.
I got one wrong.
What we do know is that the brains of newborns are actually a lot more connected than the brains of adults. We start our lives with a lot of connections in our brains, and we lose some of them. One of the ideas that is trying to explain the difference between synesthetes and non-synesthetes development is that essentially synesthetes were able to keep a little bit more of those many connections that we all started our lives with.
So this condition might have been something we've all had at one time in our lives, but since lost. But the similarities between synesthetes and the rest of us may not end there. Scientists are now beginning to suspect that even as adults, we may have far more in common with synesthetes than we realise.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be alive without it. Because it doesn't impose itself, it's just part of my being. So I kind of don't believe that people don't have it. I think they're just not looking hard enough.
And this question of the way our senses are connected is being answered with the help of another set of bizarre illusions.